Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review All of Us Are Dead, Season 1, Episode 7. So, you go into this episode, and immediately I have to go on and say something. So, if we don't have already in another episode where people were having problems breaking down a door, I was thinking, you know what? This time around in this episode, everything is gonna change. Conveniently, we have these people even more tired, but no. They're going to easily go on and break down a door in this episode. Oh yeah, I'm sure. So we also go on and have what is to be this wound that is to make us go, oh no, this person is all of a sudden going to be like this nothing of a wound in this episode. I'm like, of course it is. No one's just going to, like, everything is just to be this silly, just, like, tease to make you think, oh no, I have to feel compassionate about a person. I'm gonna take the freaking Walking Dead approach to this show and just be like, no, I'm not gonna have any feelings towards anybody if it's in the awe portion of like, oh no, they're gonna die, or because I just will have that thought process of, we'll just turn around in the very next episode. If it seems like they're going to die in this episode, no, it's going to somehow turn around and make it edited to where it's actually, oh no, this person is perfectly fine. They just bizarrely just fell 20 stories, but then conveniently landed on their feet, and they're perfectly okay. Even though they fell from 20 stories, they just weirdly were just able to just, like, somehow just break their fall, and everything is okay. Somebody just bizarrely just blew up this big bouncy house for conveniently this character to just fall onto, and they're not dead. Man, did they just time that perfectly. I'm B-wording and moaning, I apologize. But I like this episode. I like that we have, like, the perspective of a person that technically is a zombie, but not zombie, half-bee, who is going and giving us the thought process of a zombie. But then again, we also still have this kind of slow story going on here. I'm like, man, the pacing of this show, the pace upon of which that we go about this show. But yeah, so enjoyed it though. Enjoyed it. Even though the whole door situation and like, man, these kids and like their kryptonite is just doors going on in this show. It's either like some people just kind of run through these doors and open them and they're like, oh my god, are you infected? Or we just have it to where people are just trying to break some doors down, so to speak. So people just willy-nilly, like, I guess don't realize that they should lock these things called doors, but I guess they really can't. Freaking, like, duct tape it or something. Like, hey, if the Train to Busan people could go on and figure out how to, like, make a door to where people can't open it, these people can. They could figure out how to just, like, fasten the door so it won't open. You can figure that out. One thing that I also have to mention is we have the detectives that go and kind of duct tape their, like these things on their feet and on their arms. And I have to admit, because I forgot about this, because I went and referenced, of course, World War Z, but I also know that Train to Busan, there's one guy in that movie that went on and, like, kind of taped his arms too. So, like, it feels like they probably took a lot of stuff probably from Train to Busan in this movie or in this show, but like, I'm not gonna not give these people credit when it seems like this thing seems more strategic than anything else that I've seen, because it seems consistent that there is some kind of thing that they're trying to do here. But I also have problems with it. Even though I like this show, give mad props to this show every single day. But anyways, let's go into that double 5 time territory. Let's just go into spoilers about this one. So, if anything, we kind of cover more of the military side of this, and I might have a problem because I don't have a military cast list. Bigger characters like the students that are they're big, right? And the teachers, adults, so that actually is big. And like, man, like we had Lee like die, but man, do they just keep on adding him in this story somehow? Like, keep this guy continuing to getting checks throughout the show. But I'm like, man, didn't he die like 3 years ago? How much footage can he have of this whole zombie invasion thing? How much time within a number, like, we're still doing this whole thing within like a number of like 2 or 3 days, this whole entire span of thing. And we have like Mr. Lee that's gone and done like 30 different videos about all this stuff that he's figured out and all the stuff that he's like gone on and mentioned. Like we had the one episode where Mr. Lee was talking about like, hey, there might be a possibility that somebody could be a zombie and a human at the same time. There could be a possibility of this. And we also have in this episode where Mr. Lee is figuring out that he needs to go and activate something in somebody's body to have them become possibly like cured or changed or whichever for this series for his family. And so, like, at least I talked about that and I teed up that. So, with that said, let's just go into that double five because it's otherwise that time again to just go into this thing called Spoiler Time. Spoiler Time. It's about that time to get spoil this episode. So, one thing that I want to go out of my way to immediately mention here, Yi-hyun, the redheaded girl, she is basically effed by this episode. She's really just effed. I'm waiting for, since the kids didn't break into that room, now the zombies are probably going to break into this girl's room. And so this girl is probably going to be effed at some point, right? Or we're just going to go on and find out like years later that all of a sudden this girl was still like, hey, I'm still in here. Is the zombie apocalypse over? I still have all these snacks in here. Good for me, right? So for this episode, we of course have Namra, who's with Bear-soo. Because I'm not going to call him Hayok or Hayuk. However way I'd probably butcher that last name anyways. So we have Namra going, because I'm going to get to the military stuff in a little bit here. I'm going to start here to kind of get this out of the way. Namra is going on and kind of retelling us what she was to feel when she had first gotten infected, and that I guess Bear-soo had a certain smell. And Bear-soo was like, well, like, what do you mean? What kind of smell was that? And Namra was like, well, I'm not really sure. So he had a smell, but wasn't quite sure. Like, he whiffed something, but you couldn't really, like, was it rotting meat? Was it, like, was the blood on him? Were you smelling that? Anyways, so we have Bear-soo that's kind of asking Namra about questions about, like, how she felt and how she feels now, and so we finally have Bear-soo that confesses to Namra that he likes her and he has liked her for a long time, and that Namra is to kind of have this camcorder and she doesn't really know what to say. And so she finally goes onto the camcorder And she's like, Bear Sue, like you, buddy. Like, that's all she really says. And then both of them kiss. I'm like, well, that's nice. That's nice. So, now that I've covered that, we have a guy named Jjin, I believe is his name. That's one of the military operatives that is going to go on through the town and bust some zombies, so to speak. So, we have, of course, this guy going on and telling his mother, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go and play soccer with some of the guys because I'm tired of playing video games. And his mother is just like, well, you're not playing soccer, are you? You're going and trying to just do something else, aren't you? You're lying to me. And Jin's like, no, like I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna take just gonna take my friends and we're gonna go to play soccer. Liar. So this military guy goes on and it's to go to, it looks like a mall to me. It looks like a mall. So we go on and we have these military operatives, and here we get some like POV stuff, which I love, like temporary POV stuff in a show. I don't know, or movie. I don't know what it is about POV to me, where all of a sudden you're seeing the perspective of the guy, and I'm like, man, I wish we could have gotten that a little bit more often in this show. Even though like a lot of people would hate POV in a show where you're seeing from like first person, but I like that kind of stuff. It's cool. It's cool, kids. It's cool. So we go on and we have these guys who are going through this of course military mall of sorts. And I don't know what they were trying to do with this, like the whole POV, were they wanting to like sell this as a game? Maybe that would make sense. I would probably see probably a number of people that would probably, interestingly enough, pick this up as a video game because who knows? Maybe Netflix would want to just like go into other mediums finally besides just shelling out a show or a movie or whatever. Because it seems like this show is going like bananas as far as uh, popular. It might not be as hugely popular as some other stuff, but it's getting there. So we go on and have these guys going through this mall, and they're kind of clearing this mall out. And I'm like, it doesn't, like, it feels like they're just killing all the zombies. Shouldn't they be looking for survivors also? But we have Jjin that gets attacked by this zombie. He gets bitten. And so, like, well, like, we're going to have to just put him in a weird body bag and just shove him into this truck. And we're going to experiment on him. And so this military guy is going like, we should go on and we should get his parents' permission to experiment on him. And then like, hey, like, with what's kind of going on, like, we shouldn't have to need permission. And the military guy's like, no, it's right. It's right to go on and ask permission and to have this guy be experimented on. It's the right thing to do. So we go on and we have this military guy. I don't know what kind of... I'm assuming I'm going to say he's a general, because it seems that generals usually are to be the ones who are to be kind of the high rung guy in every movie and show and whatever. There's usually like a 4-star general and whatever. But I don't know military rung of life. So like if a lot of people are going and like, because there's a lot of people that I easily and quickly identify with some uniform and say it's like, oh well, he's a 4-star sergeant, or he's a 4-star general, or obviously, because I can tell by his uniform. Because there's a lot of times when you would go on, and I don't know how many times that I would watch a show that has some kind of Navy guy on it, and I would have, of course, my dad, who of course would like immediately know who the rung of life of a naval person is. Like, oh yeah, that's a sergeant, or that's like, okay, all right, great. Didn't need to know, but it's great that I knew. But anyways, so just being honest, so we go on into this show, and so we have, I'm assuming, this higher up officer that it's going at, who is going and talking to the Assemblywoman because I guess she has some power over some people. And so we have this Assemblywoman that wants to be like, she wants to go on and be examined. And they're like, well, hey, just because you're the Assemblywoman doesn't mean you have all that. Like, it doesn't seem like you really are going to have much pull around here. Sorry, like, you're going to be taken as. You're going to be taken like anybody else to be taken. Like, sucks to be you. So, the Assemblywoman is wanting, of course, the military here to go on and go to this high school because she knows that that fire rescue guy is going to go on to this high school because this fire rescue guy was to, of course, known that there was going to be a number of kids stuck at that school. And so after talking to this woman and kind of shutting the door on her and just kind of walking off, we have the guys that are like, well, yeah, how many students have we actually, like, obtained? How many, like, how many schools have we gone on and rescued here? And they're like, well, none. I'm like, shouldn't you have gone on and shouldn't you have, like, been, like, the Titanic of things when looking at it? Shouldn't you have immediately gone on and rescued every single woman, child, baby, whichever? Shouldn't that have been like the priority? Like, is there so many political people that they're rescuing right now? Or are they just randomly, willy-nilly just rescuing people that it doesn't really make sense for them to rescue at this point? Or are these people being sent on so many missions that don't make sense? I don't know. Probably just random rescues that people are doing right now because they don't know what really they're doing, even though it seems like they know what they're doing. But there's probably maybe there's a ton of just political people or higher up people in this town that they're just trying to rescue first, I'm assuming. Because this is, again, still very early in this whole thing. So maybe people are just kind of randomly like, yeah, like, we don't know where we're going, so we're just kind of sending people out randomly, trying to find people. So we have, of course, this officer that is to order, or this military officer that orders these guys to go out to this high school and then go on to possibly have this officer's mother being picked up, is what this guy says. Like, well, yeah, like, you didn't send anybody off to go and rescue your mother or whatever. And he's like, like, you could go on and rescue anybody and then maybe get to her if she's still alive. So we go on and have a chopper being sent to that high school that this guy was going to. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, this is way too early for this. And on top of that, by the time that probably Anjo's dad gets to her, she'll have been gone already. Probably. Man, does that just straight up suck. So, because what ends up happening here, what their plan is we go on and we're having all the kids decide that they're going to have every single zombie go into this one room. And these guys are going to take every single bit of furniture to make a wall to block these zombies from getting further into this room. And the kids are going to bring every single zombie they possibly can into this one side of the room. And then they're going to run out the other side and then try to make their way into any part of the school without having to of course, be, like, kind of turned around by any number of these zombies. So I'm like, okay, that's a smart idea, but the way of which that they go about executing this and where they go is kind of dumb. 'Cause I like to complain. I'm sorry, but out of all the places to go, the rooftop is seemingly the stupidest place to go. I would even complain about that for Dawn of the Dead from 2004. Man, did those people spend a lot of time on that rooftop. But they have gone on and secured the entire mall. There was never really much of any zombies that really came through that mall, so I would have no complaints about that. That actually made sense. Even the original Dawn of the Dead, these guys had some perfect plan to kind of coax the zombies to a certain portion of the mall for them to be able to go and get certain items, but then they figured out a way to completely secure the outside of the mall so they can go through the mall and then kill all the zombies off. A brilliant plan. But but this thing doesn't exactly do that. This thing doesn't exactly approach in that manner. They're just like holding things off consistently. I'm like, they've already complained, a number of these people have already complained that they were hungry. And I'm sure that these guys won't have a lot of energy because they're all starving. And I'm sure they're all thirsty. So where would you think in a whole entire school that they should have naturally headed to take care of that? Wouldn't that have made a whole lot of sense to go into some whole massive area that would probably have a thing called food and drink? But no! Let's go on the roof! Alright, so we go on through the roof, and we of course have Bear-Soo talking to Chung-sung before they open the door in this one room. We have Bear-Soo that tells Chung-sung that Guinam is dead supposedly, but we'd find out that that's not really true. So, speaking of Guinam, we had Guinam that is to go and meet up with one of his old bully buddies, Song Mayong Hwan, and they're both underneath this truck, and we have this guy, Song here, who is to force Guinam to sacrifice himself. And I usually call Guinam Hoon. So if you're getting or Yoon. So if you're getting confused, normally the guy that would call Hyun in this story, I'm calling him Guinam now. So the same guy in the middle here. So we have some pushing Guinam to go off to this car for Som to kind of get away and for these zombies to go after Guinam. And Guinam's like, you know what, no, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, well, hey, like, I'm still going to control you here and I'm still going to bully you here. And so this guy goes, no. Like, he goes on and he pushes Som out and he twists his arm to the point of this guy just is stuck here now. Like as if he kind of put him almost in like an arm bar. And he is to hold him right where he's at. And so all of a sudden we have Guinam who's forcing this guy to just get eaten alive by zombies. Because this guy goes on and sacrifices everybody. Everybody. So, all these zombies are swarming on this guy, and Green Knob's like, meh, like, sucks to be you. We go on and we have this guy who breaks his own arm. And so all these zombies are swarming, and he's like, bye. Like, I'm going to go off and chase after all of the kids that are trying to make it to the roof. So we also have the archery team that's going on and getting more arrows. And I'm like, man, you know what? In all honesty, it's kind of sad how you would have thought that the archery team or the archery people would have been way more productive in this show. But every time I go on and I see these people, I'm like, man, this is like a massively huge missed opportunity. That you would think that out of all these people, like the archery people would have a leg up on everybody. And that they would be easily just be like a million miles away by now in some other town somewhere. Just be like, yeah, like all we need is a car and a good thing of gas. But man, do they get stalled like worse than the freaking than the actual like students that have nothing. I'm like, how is this a thing? How have these archery kids been so horrifically stalled compared to everyone else? If I were these archery people, I would just be like, you know what? F it. Like, I'm going to easily be able to survive this thing. I'm going to go freaking out and find a car and be gone. How is it also that they haven't have thought of that within this show? These archery people can go and kill all these zombies. Why aren't they gonna go out somewhere, get a car, bring this car to pick up this kid, drive off, and boom, you're done? How they haven't thought of that, but eventually, I'm sure in the very next episode, they will conveniently think of that. Because how, like, they had that bus, right? That the archery kids got off on to get to this place. Why not just take that bus and bring that bus back? Or just find any car. You can almost find any car almost. Figure out a way to maybe either hotwire it or just kind of figure out something. But yeah, so I'm going too long into this. So we have the archery team that, of course, is going, and we have the kid who got stabbed, that they are trying to figure out a way to make some kind of thing to kind of, like, kind of have this kid kind of be on this little thing where he's going to be, like, kind of pushed out, because this guy can't really move anywhere. So instead they're going to go and have this, like, little like kind of lifting thing where they can have this kid be like pushed on. And the sad thing of it is like once they immediately get outside, all of a sudden the thing that is kind of holding this kid in this little thing all of a sudden coincidentally breaks, and then they are forced right back into the room that they were already in. And so all of a sudden they're forced to get back into the same place that they were. And we have the one kid who's stabbed, who is to go on and just complain about, like, I'm dying, and, like, it really, really hurts, and you don't understand my pain. And we, of course, have Park Jin, who's just like, like, your pain, whatever. Like, suck it up, kid. Like, so what? You're dying. It's like, you're gonna die right here because we can't go anywhere else with your dead body. Because we have this guy who's like, well, just go on without me. Just go on. Like, I'm just gonna die anyways. So I'm kind of wondering if this guy dies naturally, will he turn into a zombie or no? I'm assuming no, right? Because we haven't discussed that yet. We haven't got to that point yet. Because there's sometimes in some zombie things where people do turn into a zombie even when they don't get infected and they die naturally. They turn into zombies anyways. So there could be that. There's always that. So we also have Yoon-ji. You remember the girl that was to go on to be at the rooftop? Now she's no longer on the rooftop. And it was kind of funny because it took me a while to even remember who this person was. I'm like, who is this woman? Who is this girl that they're now focusing on? I'm like, oh, that's the rooftop girl. It's been a while. Plus also, like, she had her hair, like, down before. Now it's up. And I'm like, it's a completely different person. Weirdly enough. I had to look at the back of her shirt and be like, oh, it's Rooftop Girl. Oh, so Yoon-ji is all of a sudden bumping into one of these teachers, who of course is Jung-hung Nam or Jung-young Nam. And so we have this rooftop girl who's speaking to this guy, and we have it to where she's going like, you know, and I'm so hungry. And all of a sudden she's grabbing this fish off this fish tank and like eating them. I'm like, oh my god, that is so awesome, but also gross. I'm wondering how they did that. Did they go on and just like, oh, well, we gave her fish gummy bears. We gave her, of course, gummy bears that look like fish because we didn't want her to break her teeth while trying to eat these fish bones. So we didn't legitimately give her fish. We gave her some like fish gummy bears. Because I would be like, ow, my teeth! If I were to have probably eaten an actual fish. So this girl is just scarfing down these fish right off of this fish tank. And so we all of a sudden have this teacher notice that this girl is to be bitten. And so he's like, hey, you were bitten. And she's like, well, yeah. So he goes and has this like thermos looking thing. It looks like a thermos, not quite sure. But it's like a big, massive thermos. It's like the size of my arm, this thermos. And are all thermoses about that size anyways? A big, massive thermos. This guy looks like he could go on and have an arm full of thermos. So this guy goes on and smacks Yoon-ji with his thermos. And she's like, meh. Like, what? So this girl turns around and like this guy is just like, you know what? How about you leave? How about you get out of here? And so Yoon-ji brings up this story about at one point that this teacher was saying that this girl was dense. And so this girl is to finally seek vengeance upon this man for the horrible thing that this teacher was to say about this student. So she goes and starts biting this teacher as this teacher is to find this knife conveniently and starts stabbing into this girl. But I'm like, don't you know? This is a zombie girl. Why are we stabbing her in the chest? Like, what? This guy is stabbing her in the chest. What good is that gonna do? He must still think that she's a normal human? I don't know. I don't get this. Like, we obviously have it where this is zombie rules now. If this guy knows there's a zombie thing and this girl is going to be a zombie, go for the head. Always go for, or go for, I guess, in this show, go for the neck, I guess, because it seems like that seems to be the go-to thing to go to for the neck, I guess. So so eventually we have it to where weirdly this teacher doesn't turn into a zombie like this girl is. He just turns into regular zombie, not halfy zombie. So I'm like, man, the rules of just zombie non-zombie is just weird. Zombie half zombie are just like they don't make any sense. They just don't. So so now that everything is, I hope, technically covered in this episode, we go and we have all the kids scrambling to the roof. Conveniently, at the same miraculous time, we have a chopper being at this roof, and the only rooftop kid that is to be with pumped up kicks is. All the other kids have pumped up. I don't know where I've seen that from lately, but like it must have been from something that I can't remember what it was from. But yeah, like we had that goofy song being placed in my brain, and now I can't like get it out of my brain for whatever goofy reason. So Kim, I'm not going to pronounce his last name. Kim, the rooftop kid, is to be up on the rooftop, and we have these people who are trying to bash through this door, and this kid is like, yeah, I'm not going to open this door for these kids. Like, I hope they die. So, because we have Kim who's remembering about the girl who's mentioning that she just hopes that all the kids are just to die and burn and whatever. So I guess since that guy has the same mentality, he's like, no, I'm not going to help anybody. As these people are desperately screaming for help and whatever. No! F all those people. This guy only cares for himself. So, the military, of course, drops with their helicopters like, son, are you the only one left? And he's like, So, they're going on and scrambling and getting this one kid. And I'm assuming they're probably going to get, hopefully, through to grab these other people, I hope. Or conveniently, I bet what's conveniently going to happen. They're going to finally slam against this door and it'll break at the last ditch second. Or we're going to have these guys go and save this one kid and then fly off. And then we're going to still go on and have these kids still in this environment, because what we have going on now is we have Queenam who is going and making it through this stairway, and he's kind of pushing all these zombies that are pushing into him. And so we now have like almost like a god, what is it called, like it's a concert thing. It's like a mosh pit where we're going on and having people pushing people and whatever, and they're trying to enjoy the music, but again, like, people are getting thrashed and pushed and whatever. We have a stairway pushing of zombies and whatever. So we go and we have Guinam, who has this, like, who's carrying this zombie, and he's pushing his way to try to get to all the guys. And so this is like the worst case scenario. And plus also I'd have been like, hey, frickin' Bear Sue, this guy was supposed to be dead. Any of these half-bees need to easily be killed here. What the fuck? Like, now we have to deal with this guy that is not only half-bee, but he's also a villain. He's also on the bad side. And so we're just going to have it now where it's like people are just going to be effed. They're going to be effed here. And we're going to have some of these guys. I bet it's going to have to be at the last ditch second we're going to open this door and everyone will be saved. But then once they'll be saved, there'll still be some more saving to do. I want to say this now. I feel like the one place where it seems the most safest, I think that that's going to end up somehow like not being a safe place at some point. So the place that it's like, oh yeah, like we've quarantined everybody, like everything is gonna work out, everything is gonna be safe, it's all good in the hood, whatever. I think we're just gonna turn around and find out, oh no, that's that one place that is to be the safest place on Earth isn't safe after all. And plus, I also didn't get to the detective thing. I didn't get to that. So the detective and the one guy are wanting to make a break for it with the baby and the little kid, and so they're duct taping their knees and their forearms and whatever, and so they're gonna try and make a break for it. So they and here's the thing: they have like a didn't they have like a ton of zombies by this store before? Now there's fewer zombies conveniently. What happened to just all of a sudden have fewer zombies? From when I left them last, there was like a whole load of zombies all over this store, and they were like gonna break through. That's what I thought was gonna happen, but no. So these guys make a break for it. We again have this guy who's going and smacking all these zombies with this stick. And so they're driving with this motorcycle, and they're getting a pretty good they're going pretty good to just kind of get the F out of there. And so we get to one point where we do this really cool maneuver that probably means nothing to nobody, but still I thought it was pretty cool. Where we have this one small little gap where these guys have to drive through perfectly, while these zombies are trying to make it through this small little gap also, and they're having problems because all these zombies are smacking against this one brick wall to try to get into this one little gap here, and they kind of smash into one another. So, because I want to get to the orange gibberish thing last. God, that guy. So, we have this detective, and like he's with this officer and the kid. So we're having them drive, and it seems like they're doing really well. And you would have thought at some point also that these people would have gone on and tried to like find a car nearby, but no, they didn't. They just kept on with this motorcycle, and I can understand that completely. So all of a sudden they're making to one part where all of a sudden Orange Gibberish is yelling out for help. And he's also calling people like morons or stupid or something. Because he's asking them for help, but then he's also insulting them. Desperately saying, hey, yeah, I need help. And they're like, well, can't you like jump down? And he's like, no, I have a broken leg. It's like, well, that's not my fault. I would have said, hey, buddy, frickin' jump down and break your other leg. Just slide down and break your other leg. You're the stupid moron guy that's like on YouTube just trying to go on and get some views and some likes, right? Orange Gibberish. My second favorite character. The guy I hate the most, but he's my second favorite character. The baby is number one, because the baby doesn't have a name. But Orange Gibberish is favorite guy number two. The guy I hate the most, but because now we have to go and save this guy, and so this detective goes out of his way to try and save this Orange Gibberish guy. And so the officer is just saying, like, well, hey, I think I see a zombie off in the distance. The detective's like, no, there's nobody there, you stupid moron. And so the detective goes and gives this guy the baby. And so he kind of, like, puts this thing on this guy. So, like, this coat backwards. So this baby can go into this guy's coat. And all of a sudden, this officer just takes off. And so Now this detective needs to go and help figure out how to save Orange Gibberish. Just to do what exactly? Like he's gonna have to go on and like either carry this guy or is gonna go on and have to basically just limp on with this guy. You know what they should go on and do? What I'm thinking they should do is we should just have it where since that guy has all that tape from his leg and from his arm, what they should just do is just tape the one guy's leg to the detective's leg, because they're basically going to have to just kind of go and do like this together, so that way they can make it out of here, or figure out some way of how to put a splint on this guy's leg with the stuff that they have, and figure out how he can walk with this leg the way it is. I don't know. They'll have to figure something out, or they'll just have to kind of stay at the place where they are at, and just kind of make do. So that technically covers everything, I'm hoping. I almost forgot about some stuff, but I think it's about that time for me to get the heck out of here also. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.